start with my feet hip width apart, which is your hip bones, insteps parallel, and we're just going to take a pitch forwards and backwards, rocking forwards onto the toes and then backwards onto the heels. And while I'm doing this, I'm thinking about lengthening the spine, so lifting the crown of the head up towards the ceiling, sending my tailbone down a little bit, having a check in the mirror that's in front of me that I've got good alignment of everything. My contrasting top is at the same height, my shoulders are at the same height, and then I'm going to go from side to side. Not taking too much movement from side to side. I can, but I want to try and keep my torso fairly still. And then I'm going to take this movement into a square. So we're going to go forwards all the way, so onto the toes. I'm going to go over to the sides, onto the one little toe, down the outside edge of that foot to the heel of that foot, across the back to the other heel, forwards along the outside edge to the other little toe, and then across the front again. So I'm trying to make quite a strong square. And then I'm going to round, my square out and turn it into a circle. Trying to keep the torso still and just really observing here what's going on with that plumb line. So the plumb line is that central line that falls down through your spine, through your torso. If it's a lead weight at the bottom, which is what the original plumb line was, it should be drawing a circle now. And we're just exploring, noticing where we're moving in the body. Whoa, and I've got a little bit too far back there, so I needed to adjust that slightly. So it's mainly my ankles and my hips that are taking the just very small adjustments, making the very small adjustments. I'm keeping my torso still like a mannequin. Great, so that's the overall balance. Let's think about the shoulders. So let's take the shoulders forwards and backwards. So from the side, when we're in our good standing posture and our plumb line is there, if that plumb line was to draw down, it should draw down from the front of your ear through the side seam at the front of your shoulder, just about there. We're naturally a little bit there, all of us, even if we've got quite good posture. So we just want to even be in a neutral position, in the middle position. We want to engage a little bit round here, which is these muscles here, which we try and work on all the time. So let's just take those shoulders forwards of that midline, centre, and then pin them back. And you might notice that your rib cage shifts a little bit forwards and backwards, but it's sort of the shoulder girdle that you're trying to take forwards and backwards. And then we're going to go up and down with the shoulders. This in itself is quite a nice movement to do. Releasing any tension in the back of the neck, drawing those shoulder blades down, and we're switching on those muscles at the back, around the shoulder blades, around the outside edge of your shoulder blades, which will help to keep the shoulder blades flat against the rib cage wall at the back. So now let's take the shoulders into a square to start with. So forwards all the way, up towards your ears, excuse me, across the top, down in your back. Forwards, up, across the top, down in your back. And now I'm going to smooth out that square into a great big circle, and think about how much movement you've got in this shoulder joint. So sometimes when we do this in class, I don't see this amount of movement. Think about this, imagine there's a big neon sticker here, just on the outside edge of your shoulder, and think of the circle that's drawing. It's quite a big movement, and we're going backwards all the time because we want to counterbalance we want to open up the chest. Let's pop the hands on the shoulders and now take circles with the elbows. So move your neon sticker to your elbows. Imagine the circle that you're drawing in space. Imagine all the lights have gone out and all you can see is that neon sticker. Make it the biggest circle possible. So bring your elbows together at the front, which will push the rib cage back, which is what we want, up as high as possible. Pin the elbows back, which will shift the rib cage forwards, that's fine. Draw down as much as possible. So we're there. All the while, mobilising your upper body, your rib cage, getting that rib cage moving around. Remembering that's our tightest part of the body. And then let's take it into double arm circles. One of our 10 things to do every day. Just check it out. How does it feel? If it's uncomfortable in the shoulder, take it back a stage. Go back to the elbows. Maybe just go back to the shoulders. And usually, pretty much always actually, that will make me all warm around here. So as we're doing circles, let's turn the head to the side, drop the chin down onto the chest, come up to the other side. Look up to the ceiling, follow a spider across the ceiling, down the wall. It's going across the floor, it's going quite fast. It's going up the other wall and then back up to the ceiling. And let's change sides. So let's go in the opposite direction actually. So turn to the side, drop down and looking up and over. So I'm imagining my neon sticker, I've decided that's my theme for today, is on my chin. And I'm drawing a circle with my chin. And that hopefully will feel quite nice, keeping those arms nice and still, keeping the shoulders still. Great, let's go into some rotation. We've got another circle here, I want you to imagine like a hula hoop around. This hula hoop is level with your shoulders. You're going to pop your hands on your shoulders and you're moving your elbows from side to side, rotating around your spine, and your elbows are touching the inside edge of that hula hoop all the way round. And what you'll find is you'll get a bit of an overlap at the front and the back if you make sure that your hips and your ankles, so my ankles aren't staying straight or square, they're joining in as well with that rotation. So I call this the hula hoop overlap. And then that leads us quite nicely, I'm going to go forwards a little bit, into some loose swimming. So my torso, my shoulders, my hips, my ankles are doing exactly the same movement. I've just changed what's going on with the arms now. The spine is upright. And then let's come forwards today. We're going to use this movement in a moment when we're adding on. So if I go sideways here, again, my neon stickers are now on my hands, my fingertips. I'm drawing a big circle. This circle is all the way here. You can only take it behind you and keep it sort of square to the side by opening up the shoulder, the hip and the ankle. Really important movement. And then let's just finish off as we're warming up with our standing rotations. Let the arms relax and then add looking behind you, standing as tall as possible. Try not to shift your hips from side to side. Keep that plumb line true. Keep it vertical. And we are there. Great, we're going to stand on one leg. We're going to build this, make it a bit more progressive as we go. So remember the first leg that you lift is your natural, so I'm standing on my naturally stronger leg. So I'm going to put that heel down and lift the other leg. We're taking a circle at the ankle and circle at the wrists. Trying to get as much movement going on as possible. And as I'm doing this, I'm also going to try and twiddle. I've just changed direction. I'm going to try and twiddle fingertips and toes a little bit as well. So it's all going on. It's really important to keep your central nervous system alive and awake by keeping your extremities, being able to move your extremities. And I'm also getting a nice one leg balance on this standing leg. In the mirror, my shoulders and my hips are square. I haven't hitched on this lifted side. My pelvis hasn't twisted backwards. Change in direction both ways. And then I'm going to go sideways to the camera. We're here. I'm going to take, again, a cycle, a one-legged small cycle. Circle, cycle of the foot. And I'm keeping this quite low to start with. I'm going to go more here, actually. There's not too much movement going on in the body. This doesn't need to be perfect. We're just making this a little bit functional. just stressing the leg, the balancing leg, and we're going to go a little bit bigger with that circle and the movement of that leg. And just notice how much change there is in the body. So I'm tending to shift forwards a little bit, then come upright. I'm using my natural arm movement. In fact, I'm almost taking a little bit of a circle with the arms. To get this even bigger, I'm going to go here. So I'm swimming forwards, and now there's a lot going on. Tough work on the balance, getting a little bit aerobic-y as well. Opposite hand is coming up and over to touch that knee, or as that foot comes forwards. So it's all going on there. Whew. Good job. Let's do all of that on the other side. So standing on one leg, get everything nice and square again. Your tissue box is level, the corners are level, circling the foot at the ankle, trying to keep the rest of the leg still, and then circling at the wrists, trying to keep the arms still. So if you start to bend the arms, or if you're up here, you're using extra muscles which we don't really need to use for this job. We want to isolate. And I'm trying to go for some piano playing at the same time. Quite difficult trying to get your fingers and your toes all going and keep the circle going at the ankles. It is all going on, but that's good. Thinking about that wonderful tall posture, and at the same time without even realising you're still working on your balance, which is amazing. I'm going to turn sideways. Let's get the leg going. So initially, when this leg is quite low, I don't even need to use my arms. I can stay there and it's relatively comfortable. But you'll find actually, if you just let your arms hang initially, you'll find that that opposite arm will naturally gravitate and swing forwards as that knee comes forwards. That's your natural walking movement. And even the most uncoordinated person does this. And if we don't do it, you will just feel really strange. Sometimes if you've got good control over your body, you can do it quite happily, and people say to me, oh, it feels fine, but actually you don't naturally do it. So we naturally take this opposite arm to the forward leg. And then let's get this a little bit bigger. So I'm having to just shift my weight forwards and backwards a little bit. I've softened my standing leg. I'm letting it all move, and now I'm going to go big front crawl movement, big as I can with that leg. Throwing myself off balance slightly there, but actually managing to recover. So this is good. If you can start to lose your balance, but then recover, that's great. That's what your body, that's what your balance and your proprioception is all about. It's about adjusting, finding that balance. Couple more of those. Great. Okay, well done. Good job. So let's go to feet quite wide, shoulder width apart and parallel, and let's reach up. So we're lifting the rib cage off of the hips, trying to increase this gap between the rib cage box and the pelvic box, so that when we bring our arms down, let's lower them now and lower the eye line. We've got this lovely length in the spine. And it should feel like you're really nice and tall. If someone was to come along and try and push you, you're a little bit switched on, a little bit braced there. And let's take some side bends from here. So just reaching the arms down the side seam of your legs. Adding on to that, fingertips to temples, elbows out to the side. Great, and then let's add the arms extending and sweeping round. So imagine I've got a circle great big circle in front of me, and my hands are tracing around the edge of that circle. And again, there's that little bit of an overlap at the top and the bottom. Good, and then we're going to take one arm up, just watch me a moment. I'm going to draw the first half of that circle by going up and over, bending my knees, relaxing down, swapping hands over to finish off drawing the other half of the circle. I've got the other arm up, I'm going to keep it up, over to one side, relax down, swap the arms over and come up. Here we go. We're over to one side, really getting that side stretch. Bend the knees, make sure your knees are going over your toes, relax your head. As you come up the other side, look underneath. You should be looking at me now, and then all the way up to the top. Keep the same arm up, sideways and sideways. So both times, the point of this is that we're getting that wonderful stretch in the side of the back. And also relaxing, let the head go, let the hair flow. Gonna have to start putting my hair up, I think, with not being able to get to the hairdressers, it's all going a little bit crazy. So one more each side, knees over the toes, up and under, draw that big circle in front of you and finishing off there. Great. One more circle to think about. So hands at the back of the head, bring the feet a little bit closer together. We're going to take some chest pops first of all. Lifting the chest. That's why I call it a chest pop. If I take this arm away, I'm thinking about lifting my chest up towards the ceiling. I'm thinking about getting my face parallel to the ceiling. These elbows up towards the ceiling again, and my arm, I'm imagining, it's probably not, but I'm imagining that it's perpendicular as opposed to whatever that angle is. So trying to take that all the way up to the ceiling, but not by lifting and lowering the head. So pushing the head into the hands will help you achieve that. From here, because we're going to use this movement later and because I really like it, we're going to come back to a neutral position, still pushing the head in the hands. We're folding over here. So this is essentially your abdominal curl when you've got your head behind your hands on the floor. You are going to need this movement a little bit later. But let's take our circle now. So an upper body roll around is what I call this one. Your elbows are forwards. You're going up and back. Make sure you go up and back. Then you're going round to the side. So you're creating the crease here. Forwards, creating the crease there. Round to the other side. And then create that crease at the back. Over to the side. Forwards and over. All the while through, I'm applying the same level of pressure head into the hands. My elbows are staying in the same place. My ears and my arms are staying in the same space as well, same relationship. There's no moving the head around. Couple more if you can. And think about making that circle. Try not to make a semicircle, so a capital D. We don't want a capital D, we want a circle all the way around. Great, but we are now going to do a semicircle. So bringing your feet together, just going to go forwards a little bit. So feet completely together, get that plumb line in the middle, and we're going to release one leg. Start standing on your weaker leg if you can. We're going to release one leg forwards. The legs stay straight all the way through this. The hips stay level, shoulders stay level. I'm just lightly touching my toe to the floor. So this is our first position. I'm going to carry the leg round to the side. So it's level with the middle of my standing foot. Nothing has changed in those hips. Watch that the hip doesn't follow your leg round to the side. My legs are still in parallel, no turnout. I'm going to carry the leg round to the back. Hips are still square. There's a very slight pitch forwards here. And then I'm going to, if I go sideways on, from here, I'm just going to flex the foot. That leg is coming through. The only thing that's changed is the ankle joint. And then I'm forwards. And then round to the side, to the back. Let's hit those 3 positions. 1, 2, 3, make it a 4th one here, nice and smoothly now, hovering the leg off of the floor. So as I come through my legs together, you have to really lift out of your hips to create no change in the hips. If you're sunk down here, you've either got to bend that leg or everything is just going to collapse. You're going to probably bend that working, moving leg. So staying over your standing leg, hips, shoulders square. Placing my hands on my body just helps me to be aware if there's any change. Hopefully you're going to start to feel some nice strong work going through that standing leg now. See if you can keep the legs straight all the way through. We don't very often work with straight legs. If you never straighten your legs, the muscles forget how to be straight. I don't mean locking the knees back, but do have a straight leg. Good, that's starting to feel really uncomfortable now. So what we're going to do for another 5, if you can, is reverse the movement. Flex that foot again, take the foot behind you. This is difficult, from the back to the side and forwards, and I'm really feeling some work on this standing leg now. To the back, round to the side and forwards. I put my hands on my hips, 3 more, I do believe, so that I can make sure my hips are staying level, reminding me to lift my rib cage off of my hips, create that space. Ooh, I think this is the last one. Maybe I've done an extra one, I'm not sure. Hand, feet together, oh, and then have a little shake of that leg. Brilliant, let's do all of that on the other side. Just let that relax off a little bit. Sometimes when you've worked really hard, especially buttock muscles, and then you go to do the other side, you'll be distracted by the sensation of cramping in that leg. So we just want that to ease off a tiny bit. So feet are together. We're taking the leg forwards and then round to the side. Just find your 4 positions first of all. Notice how difficult it is to lift that leg through without any change. Forwards, no sinking when you get there. Still lifting up, round to the side, to the back, and then through. Keep going. Smooth it out a little bit now. Watch that your standing leg, your supporting leg, the one that's doing all the work, watch where your weight is on that foot. Try and keep it equally weighted between the big toe joint, the little toe joint, and the heel. Notice if anything else is changing. As I said at the beginning, there's a slight pitch forward when you take that leg behind you. And then as the leg comes underneath you, you tend to get your plumb line back. So all that's happening is the plumb line is probably going towards the front of my foot more, and now I'm back in the centre. Whoopsie, and I'm losing my balance a little bit. So I'm going to put my hands on my hips, reminding myself, thumbs on my lower ribs, stretching the fingertips apart, keep those hips still. Standing leg is starting to moan a little bit. Shoulders and hips square. Couple more, I reckon. Yeah, and now I'm going to reverse for 5, all the way through, to the back, all the way around, and 4. Resist the temptation to turn this leg out. Keep it parallel. 4, I think this is my last one. Yes, it is. And relax again. Give that leg a shake. Well done. Just noticing for yourself, do the 2 legs feel different? Do you feel it in a different place in the legs? For me, that's mainly buttocks. Back of the knee was feeling it a bit as well, just at that length of time standing with a straight leg. But as again, good. Good for supporting of the knee. So let's take the feet nice and wide now, in steps parallel. We're going to pitch forwards into a wide-legged hip hinge. The goal here is to stretch your hamstrings. I'm just dipping my fingertips into that top of my thighs, where I'm going to hinge from, to remind me where I need to move from, and remind me that that's the only bit that needs to change. Taking a couple of those pitches forwards and then coming back up. So the crown of the head's lifting, tailbone is lengthening away, they're lengthening away in opposite directions. Let's hold that there. So you might not be as low as I am, but you don't really need to go beyond parallel to the floor. You might be up here, but still feeling the stretch on the hamstrings, and your spine is in its natural curves. That's perfect. From there, we're just going to let the arms release. And let me just show you today, you can be quite a bit higher with this. I want you to think about your shoulders. So although today's sort of been squares and circles, or shapes if you like, think about the shape that you're creating with your arms, and think about this as a door frame position. And then I'm just going to let my arms hang towards the floor. So I've allowed my shoulder blades to round around the rib cage at the back. And so now I've created a sort of an arch. You can't really see with this my vest I've got on today, but if you had a lovely striped top on, at the seam of your stripes here on the shoulder, it would create this sort of curve here. So I call this the 1980s arch, as opposed to the door frame. So I'm just going to pitch forwards a little bit more, because I want you to be getting a hamstring stretch at the same time. Make sure the weight is forwards on the balls of the feet, so you can tap both heels, so you are getting that hamstring stretch. Keep the chin tucked in, and just allow those arms to hang. Imagine your shoulder blades sliding around your back. My arms are completely relaxed. There's no tension there. I'm not holding them forwards. They're completely relaxed. And then I'm lifting back into that door frame, that square position with the shoulders. If I face the camera dead on, so here's my rounded position, here's my door frame. There or there. Good. From there, holding this position, holding that door frame position, and that's what we were doing standing up. It's just that pitch backwards of the shoulders into your plumb line. Arms are out to the side, palms are down, arms are really parallel to the floor. Now we're taking some circles, a golf ball size circle at your fingertips, but move the whole arm from the shoulder girdle. About 10 in each direction. I'm changing direction, and at the same time we're getting a good old stretching those hamstrings, and you're just building the stamina to hold your back in its natural curves. Pitched forwards a little bit. Make sure you're supporting and bracing a little bit in the centre, and I think that's enough of that. I'm going to bend my knees to come up. Great. I just want to take a little bit of a walking out movement. So coming down to the floor, I'm going to go this way around. So I'm going along the length of my yoga mat. Let's take, I just realised we haven't, when I looked at my lesson plan earlier, we haven't done any chest and back lift today. So we're going to do that to get down to the floor. So just watch me first. So we're going to lift the chest, stick your bottom out, use your hands on your legs if you need to, all the way down, and then we're going to walk out, stretching one arm at a time. And then once you get into this sort of high, like a downward dog position, your hips are really high, change and move, feet opposite hand to foot, and then walk back again. So these are called bear walks in some schools of training. So bend the knees, and then we're going to take our back lift. This is lifting up to come all the way back up again. Let's do 4 of those, because hopefully you were watching me and not joining in. So lift the chest, stick your bottom out, unravel that spine all the way down to the floor. Think about which hand you lead with first. We tend to always lead with the same side. Try and swap that around, and then once you get going, 4 walks forwards, keeping the hips high. Make them really stretchy walks. You can have your legs bent if it's not available to you to have your legs straight. That's absolutely fine. When you're coming back up, get your feet level with each other and then roll up. Let's go again, a little bit quicker this time. Bend your knees, stick your bottom out, unravel your spine, reaching forwards. Try and keep the hips high. So make every step, whether it's your hand or your foot, make it count. Make it into a big old stretch all the way through to the edges, the corners of your range of motion, really. So lifting up, I think we've got 2 more. Maybe not, maybe I've exaggerated, but this is such a lovely thing to do anyway. Just explore, stretch out, push that heel down, stretch the calves, stretch the back of the knee, rolling up. Let's make this the last one, even if it wasn't. I think I might have done an extra Billy bonus one. We're here. This time I'm going to bend my knees, maybe bend your arm a little bit, roll through the shoulder. Don't be scared to move. All the way back. Hips over your feet and then rolling up. Remember, when you roll up, strongly pull that belly button in, support that back. Wonderful. We're going to go into some more stretches, you might be glad to know. So feet are wide, toes are going out to the corners. Let's just start up here actually. So my feet are almost as far apart as wide apart as my yoga mat is in length. So quite a way. Knees going over the toes. And then I'm just going to get a little bit lower until I can reach my hands to the floor. And now we're going from side to side. Good. So I'm trying to keep my hips at the same height as I straighten one leg and bend the other leg. I've got I've got some weight through my hands. My shoulders are over my hands, that's supporting me. If you wanted to make it a little bit stronger, take the hands away, lift the chest. Now I've got no support through my hands, much stronger around the hips. Good, then let's turn to the side. Let's turn to the side 4 times. So I've turned all the way to the side, and then immediately I'm going to turn around to the other side. I want your legs to be so far apart that this front knee, this bent knee, is above your ankle. So what I mean, I don't want you to be here with that foot. Have that foot really forwards. And then again, swap around. And one more. Let's stay on this side this time. So drop that back knee down, lift your chest, switch your buttocks on, try and tuck your pelvis under for a hip flexor stretch, holding that there. It's a strong old stretch. You could just be in this position, driving your hips forwards and relax, but actually, if you come back off it a little bit, stay really upright, switch your buttocks on, especially this side, try and tilt that pelvis under, it's much stronger here. Breathe, 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 breathe. So another one of our 10 things to do every day is stretching these hip flexors. If you can, carry on. We're going to place the hand down to the floor, curl those toes under. Ideally, your hips stay where they are. You straighten out that back leg. Then you lift this arm up to the ceiling. Then you take a little rotation through. Lifting up to the ceiling and rotate through. Up to the ceiling and rotate through. One more. Up to the ceiling. Rotate through. Great. Pop that back knee down on the floor. We're going to take some hamstring stretches. We're going to do advanced scissors in a bit and also some leg circles. And for that you need a good hamstring length. So pull those toes up towards you and just pitch forwards. Your weight can be on your hands. This leg isn't straight, but I want to try and get my chest over my thigh. And then you're just going to rock forwards and backwards, and especially as you take your hips backwards, you're going to feel a very strong stretch, hopefully, all the way up the calf, the back of the knee, right into the top of the hamstrings. You need to keep your chest over your thighs and this foot flexed. Great, well done. If you stuck with that one, let's turn all the way around to the other side. So dropping the back knee down, lifting the chest. So you could just be here and lift your chest and be quite relaxed and drive those hips forwards, or you could come back off it a little bit. Try and tuck the pelvis under. I say try because it doesn't really go very far, but try and tuck the pelvis under, and so you're just switching on those muscles to help with that stretch. It should be a strong old stretch at the front of your hip and the front of your groin. If you move that back foot around, it will change in the groin where you're feeling it. But for today, because we did it on the other side as well, keep that foot behind your knee. And breathe. Good, let's take that hand down to the floor. We're going to straighten that back leg out if you can. The hips are staying still, exactly where they were, lifting up to the ceiling. Here I'm trying to touch the ceiling, lifting out of this arm, and then I'm stretching through, rotating the spine and stretching through, trying to get this elbow towards the floor, fingertips towards the floor, lifting up, rotating through. One more of these, lift up, rotating through, and lift up, drop that back knee down. I'm just going to go sideways a little bit more. So I'm flexing my foot, really pulling those toes up towards me. I'm trying to get my chest over my thigh. So actually just being there is a little bit of a hamstring stretch already. And then I'm going to move backwards and forwards. I just wanted to bring that heel in a little bit. Keeping the foot flexed, taking my hips back, keeping the chest over the thighs. Breathing all the way through. Excellent, well done everyone. I'm just going to move my monitor down a tiny bit, because we're on the floor. I know we've been on the floor for the stretches, but we're on the floor for the rest of it. You might want to do the same. You might want to change the position of where you've got the screen so that you can see me. So on all fours, back to circles. Let's take some spine circles. So hands are underneath the shoulders, knees are underneath the hips. Spine circles are a circle this way around, a vertical circle. So I'm going to lift the chest, push the ribs out to the side, let the ribs drop down, push them out to the other side. Lift, side, drop down, lift and side and drop down. If I go back to here, the way I like to think of this is like your spine is like a skipping rope, and there's someone holding your skipping rope at your head and your hips, and then your spine is making that shape. Let's change direction. So the arms stay fairly straight so that you can allow that rib cage to drop down and move around. Lifting and lowering. Good, so that's a vertical circle, if you like. And then let's take a horizontal circle, otherwise known in my world as the industrial floor cleaner. What I mean by that is your body is that cleaning pad of the industrial floor cleaner, and so it doesn't really change its shape. But your circle now is a horizontal circle. And I'm using this as well to stress my wrists a little bit, get some strength through the hands, really stretching fingers and thumbs far apart. I've forgotten which direction I'm going in. And also noticing the movement at the hips, movement at the knees, the shins, maybe the ankles a little bit. Let everything be relaxed. Pushing through. So I'm trying to take my shoulders past my fingertips as I go through here. Shoulders, everything's getting a bit of a mobilisation. And the beauty of this stuff is you don't do this at any other time, but it will keep you just free and mobile for everything that you want to do in life in general. So So we've got spine circles, horizontal and vertical. Great, okay, into a C curve, a seated C curve. Again, we're thinking about shapes, circles. Just going to move my mat a little bit over there. So from sitting nice and upright, thinking about the shape of the spine, sort of as a bit of an S, and then hands underneath the backs of the knees, elbows are out to the side. I'm going to tuck my pelvis under, I'm tilting that pelvis. The shape I'm creating is a C, so sort of half a circle if you like, from the top of my head round to my sacrum, but I'm also creating like a round shape with my arms. It feels like everything is rounded, as opposed to thinking, oh, I'm going to take my shoulders back and everything's gone, this is a bit angular. This is almost like an L shape, and that just feels it's not what we're after. So we're going to take that C curve, rocking past your sit bones onto your sacrum, really scooped, really rounded. Come forwards until your shoulders are over your hips, and now sit up really nice and tall. Now try and take that chest lift, and I'm going up and back, lifting my chest up to the ceiling. So as I'm doing this one, I'm trying to keep my pelvis absolutely still in neutral. I'm hanging on to the backs of my legs, and I'm letting my arms straighten back through the centre, and then a C curve. If we're thinking about shapes, this is your capital C or little c, obviously same shape, and then this is a little r, just in my torso. So here's the straight part of my little r, and then there's the curve at the top. Through the centre, double S shape sort of, tuck under, shoulders above your hips, sit tall, lengthen the spine, come up even more, lift that chest going back, and we're here. From here we're going to go into rolling like a ball. It's a ball shape, it's a circular shape. The easiest way of doing this, if you've never done it before, is to set that C curve of the spine, hands are on the floor, and then you just roll back. Easy peasy. My hands are on the floor, just as a bit of support. The idea is that you stay in the same shape. So this gap stays the same, this gap stays the same. My back stays in the same curve. I'm coming back into a balance. My arms are rounded. So if you're feeling quite confident with that, let's make it a little bit harder. Maybe cross the ankles over. Hands are on my fronts of my shins. My elbows are rounded. I'm in that C curve. I haven't really come out of it at all. And I'm just rounding back. When I get to the top, I'm in that nice balance. I'm going to cross the ankles over. Keeping the legs in the same position. Sometimes you don't quite make it all the way back up. Sometimes you overshoot too far forwards. Ideally, your head shouldn't hit the floor. Ideally, these distances should remain the same. And hopefully it feels quite nice. It's quite a nice massage on your spine once you get used to it. If you've got the sort of back that really doesn't bend very happily in this position, absolutely no problem at all. Maybe don't do too many of these. Maybe just lie down and take some peeling shoulder bridges. So just mobilising the spine in a slightly different way, or just practice the balancing aspect of this one, which is there. Great, okay, we are going to lie down on our backs all the way down. We're going to take some cycling, so circling of those feet. So hands are at the back of the head, elbows are forwards, fingertips interlaced. We're going to get the legs going to start with, and then I'm straight away actually going to come up and start to circle the legs. So we're working at a sort of 45-degree angle, and make sure that the foot makes a circling movement like we did when we were standing up, as opposed to just extending This would just be a single leg stretch, a straight leg extension. We want that movement. This is what makes it so much harder. I've cleared my shoulder blades. I'm maintaining a neutral pelvis. That might not be possible for you. You might need to push your lower back into the mat by drawing that belly button in. And if it's feeling uncomfortable in your lower back, by all means take the legs up a little bit higher. Shouldn't be uncomfortable on the neck because you're totally supporting your head in your hands. We're going to reverse the movement now. Flexing the feet, straightening the leg and lifting. Remember, the movement is key here. We could just do this, and that's hard enough in itself, but I want you to add that extra push and lift, push and lift, push and lift. Head is heavy in the hands, in the arms, totally supported, not feeling any strain on that neck. I'm feeling strain on my legs, my thighs, and my abdominals. It's all going on. Whew. And then moving on from here, coming back to this direction, I'm going to take a twist. Keeping my elbows the same distance apart. Trying to keep my legs moving. Notice I was stopping then. Twisting and twisting and twisting. It's not really about turning your head from side to side. It's about shifting the ribs around here. And then let's reverse that movement. Taking the opposite elbow to the knee. This is now really tough. Keep those elbows the same distance apart. Try and keep that lower back in neutral. Try not to roll across your back. Maintain that height. Let's have another 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and permission to collapse. Roll the head from side to side. As much as we tried not to let that neck get tense, there would have been a little bit of tension, especially once we added the twist. Woo, feet down, let your legs loll from side to side, sort of unravelling that crisscross tension that we just created. I just realised that was supposed to be after advanced scissors and leg circles, but never mind. We are all good. So, advanced scissors. So we're scissoring the legs. I'd like you to stretch the legs out nice and straight. You're going to stop this top leg at 90 degrees. I could quite happily bring it back here, and most of you probably will be able to as well. But I want you to stop it, nice and straight leg at 90 degrees, and then we're going to switch the legs over. Stop the next one at 90 and stop this one at 90. So 3 switches. Then you're going to flex both feet and pull this leg in. So we're getting a wonderful hamstring stretch here, all the way through that heel at the back of the leg. Pointing the feet going again. So joining in with me, we're going to do 4 sets. Here we go. Switch, 2, 3. I'm hanging on to my legs. I'm keeping my chin tucked in, flexing both feet. Pull that leg in if you can and extend 90 degrees. Switch, 2, 3. If this is too much for you after the last exercise, just do the second set for me. Have a little break. Pull that leg in. Part of this is having the stamina in the neck to hold the head up. 2 more sets if you can. 3, 2, 1. 90 degrees. Flex. Pulling in, pulling in, pulling in, pulling in. And last set. 3, 2, 1, flex, pulling in, okay, and then relax down. Great, come into your base position, think about your spine in its natural curves, especially think about your pelvis being level. Maybe cup your hands over your hip bones. We're going to slide one leg away along the floor and you're going to flex that foot as if you were standing on it with a straight leg. You're going to take the other leg, if you can, up to 90 degrees, which is why we just stretched out those hamstrings. From here, we're going to take circles of that top foot. Not a hugely great big circle, a small, like a child's football size, I would say. About 5 in each direction. Try and do 2 sets, just so that you can think about the things I want you to think about. If this is too difficult, you could have a slightly bent leg, but make sure you move the whole leg from the hip socket, or bend your knee completely and draw your circle with your kneecap. It's about the circling of the thigh in the hip socket. If you've got that straight leg, maybe try turning the leg out as well if it's a little bit tight on that thigh. So shoulders are open and relaxed. I've got my elbows on the floor, fingertips touching my hips to check that there's none of this wobbling about going on. I've got a bit of cramp in that foot. I'm going to change legs over. I think I've done more than enough on that side. So flexing that foot that's on the floor, drawing the other leg in. If you can, legs straight up to the ceiling at 90 degrees, maybe a little bit of turnout. Flex that foot, push down through that leg, that's the straight leg that's on the floor, to help you stabilise the pelvis. So this is mobility in the pelvis, in the hip joint, by circling that thigh around within it. But you're also asking your other muscles of your torso and your hips to stabilise the pelvis and keep it still, so that there's not this going on. Remember, if that's too much for that straight leg, bend the knee, think of drawing the circle with your kneecap. So we're there. Ideally, those elbows should stay equally weighted. Pelvis should not be rocking from side to side, and relax. Well done. Good. Let's lie on our side in a straight line. So I'm going forwards a little bit because we're going to cycle when we get going with this one, but we're going to start. In fact, I might not have done that. Yeah, no, I think I did. We're going to start with the underneath leg bent, but just relax. The foot is level with your spine. You're in a nice straight line. You're going to draw a figure of 8 lying on its side. So we've got 2 circles. It's lying on its side. The crossing over part of your figure of 8 is in your straight line, down this side seam of the body as if you were standing up. So the important part is that you take the circle behind as much as you go in front. It's very easy to do everything here. Keep that leg back. The backwards part of the circle is really important. Keep both circles, both halves of your figure of 8 even in shape. Your goal is to keep your pelvis still. The backwards part of the circle is really important. Which I'm going to bring my foot forwards a little bit rather than having it here. Just realise that gives it a bit more weight, a bit more ballast. So I've got my hand on my hip to check that I'm keeping my hips still. This top hip one might want to roll back, might want to open out. Shoulders are stacked, chin is lifted. Remember, when we're doing this sideways work, it's the same as if you were standing up, looking forwards, so your head is in line. You don't want to be doing your sideways work here, sniffing your armpit. So I'm starting to feel some work going on in those glutes and the buttock, working the back line of the body, really important. And when you would really like to stop and you're thinking, I've had enough of this now, try and change direction for your figure of 8 for at least another 5. Making sure you're taking that circle behind your straight line, really key. And then I don't think we won't do circling. We're just going to lie on our backs and stretch this side out before we go over to the other side. Otherwise, as I said earlier, it will stress you out. Whew. So that's gone quite crampy. So taking the foot across the knee. And for me, I'm getting a bit of a stretch already. I'm just going to let my legs roll from side to side. Feels quite nice on the lower back. So whenever I'm stretching, I try and move, I try and continue to breathe so that I'm as relaxed as possible, rather than feeling all tense. Another thing to do here is maybe bring this knee in and out. So all good mobility for the hip joint. Then finishing off, 2 more things actually. Figure of four, one hand through the gap, clasp your hands behind. If you can, pop your head down, hold that there. Let's circle the foot at the ankle that's in the air. It's rude not to, partly to take your mind off of this quite strong stretch. And then the last one, take hold of that foot or that shin. I'm fixing my legs in that figure of 4 and I'm circling them round. Some parts of the circle will be really tight, others will be a little bit easier, and then going in the opposite direction. Ooh, that's really quite strong, and it's quite a nice massage on the lower back, either side of the spine as well. Ooh, definitely stretch that side out. So I'm sitting myself up, swapping over to the other side. So starting off in your straight line, bending the underneath leg, bringing it forwards, bringing the foot forward. So I started here, but then I brought the foot forwards. So this leg is pretty much at a right angle. This leg, lift your head up, have a little look. Is it continuing your straight line down the side of your body? And then you've got your figure of 8. Figure of 8 lying on its side. Going back past your midline, crossing over for the forward circle at your midline, at your plumb line, as seen from the side. Keeping the hips still. So if you allowed your hips to move around at the same time, you wouldn't be targeting the muscles that we want to target. We want to try and target glute med, especially for this one. So your middle glute muscle in your buttocks, quite a small one. So it needs to be quite small movements, subtle movements, keeping the other parts of your hips especially still, so that the other muscles, bigger muscles, don't take over and join in and sort of get the job done for you. Hopefully you're starting to feel some work there. Always when we're lying on our side, think about lifting the waist away from the mat. Think about the rib cage connecting. Think about that eye line, your head line, your top shoulder. Don't let it be collapsed forwards. Shoulders are stacked. So you'll have your natural direction in which you take your figure of 8, and I'm just about to change that around. I can't quite think of how to go the other way, but there we go, I've got myself set up. About 8 of these, 5 or 8 of these. Woo. Great, well done. Rolling onto your back, let's stretch that side out. So this is where you realise, or I definitely realised, that this is my tighter side on my hips. So I should have, maybe done this side first, but I didn't, never mind. So just the ankle across the knee, let your legs, both legs just roll from side to side. Breathing and then drawing that knee in and pushing it away. Think about the size of your body when you're in this sort of position. Make sure that you're not really twisted and shortened on one side. If it's really tight in your hips, that might be happening, but try and just do what you can. So if you can from there, lifting the legs up. This might not be available to you. An alternative is to put that foot on a chair or a wall and keep your head down. and you'll get the same stretch. Hands behind the head, behind the leg if you can, circling the foot, the head is going down, that's why I said head there, I think. Circling in the opposite direction. Just breathing, allowing that stretch to happen. Good, and then finishing off, taking hold of his ankle. So I'm fixing the position of the legs. And then I'm circling around in that hip joint. 3 or 4 in each direction. Wonderful, well done. Rolling over onto your side, back onto all fours. Let's just finish off with some sit bone circles. So these can be as big or as small as you would like. So I'm going to start off nice and small, tucking the pelvis under, taking the hips back a little way, and then releasing the pelvis to come forwards and going back again. Tuck under. So it's my sit bones that are making the circular movement. When everything gets a little bit bigger, if you want to, you can go all the way back and then start to swoop all the way through. But actually for me today, that's feeling a bit uncomfortable on my shoulders, so I'm not going to do any more of that big anyway. I'm going to go the opposite direction now. Tuck under. Take the weight forwards, bend the elbows slightly. So just mobilising through the whole spine, finishing off, curling those toes under, pushing back into a full squat, heels down if you can. And then maybe thinking about that circular motion. I've still got my hands on the floor, so my heels don't actually go down to the floor, that's fine. But I've just got my hands there and I'm just taking a circular movement around, just working through those ankles, knees, in the hips. And then let's finish off with those feet parallel, unravelling through the spine all the way up to standing. And I've just about got my head in the pictures today, finishing off with a couple of shoulder rolls all the way back. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next week.